It's a joy to be here with you today. My name is Swami Pranananda, and our meditation today is a little bit different than Swami Bijananda mentioned. The meditation is on Rashmi, a Sanskrit word which means ray of sunshine or rope. Rashmi stands for resolve, attain, sustain, harmonious mind, infinitely. That's a lot of things to attain to, a lot of things to look forward to. On a day like today in Chicago, where we have had cloudiness and we've had overcast skies for a couple of days, we need sunshine. On days where the mind is not so uplifted, we need sunshine. Now, the entire science of Kriya Yoga is predicated upon one thing. It is predicated upon humankind's ability to soften their karma. The entire science says you and you alone are the creator of your life. You and you alone are the creator of your existence. You and you alone are the creator of your reality, or perhaps better yet, your experience of the reality. Kriya, as you know, is action, sacred action. That implies that you have to do something other than just sit on your Saturn chakra and maintain a nice asana. It's a bummer, isn't it? You'd think that sitting on your Saturn chakra would be enough. And maintaining that good posture. Yoga is yoking the mind and the body. But the practice of Kriya Yoga is a repeated effort, continual, to gain control over the fluctuations of the mind. And so I like to remind myself, as I would remind you today, that none of the ancient teachings, they all say it's a repeated effort. It's practice, it's repetition, it's japa. You have to do it again and again and again and again. None of them say you practice once and you're enlightened. None of them say you practice and aha, voila, ici, you're finished. It's all a continual practice. And so that continual practice begins with resolve. It begins with your commitment to yourself. Not your commitment to your mother, to your father, to your friends, to your lovers, to your husbands, to your brothers, to your bosses. Not your commitment to God, not your commitment to Guru. Your commitment to yourself. To understand the nature of reality. And if that's too much, a student told me one day, I don't really care about all this enlightenment stuff. She said, I never came to study to get enlightened. I just want to be happy. I just want to be able to live my life. And I said, okay, well, when I say enlightenment, just ignore it. Just substitute the word that you want. Whatever it is that you have come to this life for, to this incarnation for, whatever is meaningful to you to attain is what your life should be about. But you need to make a resolve. And this really is a going inward. It's not so much a resolution. We're always making resolutions and breaking them. But it is a vow to yourself to do something. And so vows should be made in a way that they can be kept. You may take a vow to abstain from chocolate. I did that one time. Actually, I did it many times. One time I did it for more than 365 days. Yeah, I said wow too. It was a surprise. I got to the 365th day and I thought, I can have chocolate. And then my mind went, I don't think so, not today. And like 3 months went by, and then one day I said, well, you could have a piece of chocolate if you wanted. And I thought, well, maybe I will today. And it didn't taste as good as I thought it would, I just kept thinking, well, I really don't, it just doesn't taste as good. So I knew that the vow was, had worked. I'm getting ready to do it again. But you need to take a vow and to resolve, to write for yourself. You write it down. What is it that you want to resolve? I'm suggesting today that you would like to make a resolve to attain and sustain a harmonious mind infinitely. Now, the mind, the nature of the mind is to fluctuate. And so we have to say, well, what does this really mean? It means that you gain the skill to free your mind from troubling thoughts if they arise in the mind. It does not mean that they will never arise. It does not mean that you will reach a point where your mind is always harmonious and there's never any disruption in the mind. It does mean that the mind, as it fluctuates, you will be able to say, aha, the mind is fluctuating. Let me bring it back to single-pointedness. This is done with repeated effort, just as if you can get into your asana practice after repeated effort, just as if you go to sleep and wake up every day. These practices must become a habit. Now, the outgoing tendency of the mind, the Kriya Yoga Sutras say, the outgoing tendency of the mind is to be attached. The ingoing tendency of the mind should be towards meditation. Now, if you look at your life, 90% of your life, well, maybe 75% of your life is outgoing. It's looking outward. It's being attached to the everything. Attached to the food you eat, attached to the clothes you wear, attached to the home you're living in, attached to the people that are part of your lives, attached to your name, to your fame, to your way of lifestyle, to any belongings that you have. It is simply becoming attached to everything. And so in the science of Kriya Yoga, we say that there's a necessity to become detached, not indifferent, but to become detached. To recognize the fluctuations of the mind as they rise and they fall, they rise and they fall, and to not become attached to those fluctuations. Now, interestingly enough, the sutras say that this tendency to turn outward and the tendency to turn inward, they follow each other. So as the tendency to turn outward disappears, the inward tendency of the mind reappears. And in that point between the letting go of the outward tendency and the rising of the inward tendency is a point of balance. And this is the point that we are striving for, is to repeatedly attain this point of balance. But the repeated attainment has to be done through a effortful turning inward. It takes very little effort for you to be turned outward. Your mind naturally is turned outward. But it does take an effort to be turned inward. It takes an effort to be turned inward. And so the practices need to be repeated, not once a day, not twice a day, not 3 times a day, but 5 or 6 times a day. Truly, the practices need to be continual. And this means that you have to find practices to do, to attain the skill to repeatedly turn inward, regardless of what you're doing. And so I'm going to share some of those with you today. So the first is making your resolve. The second is to attain this state of harmonious mind. It's not so difficult to attain it. It's pretty easy to attain a harmonious mind. You just turn your mind inward. In fact, let's just see if we can for a moment. You focus your attention here at the sun center. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. In doing the resurrection breath, turn your head to the left twice with a double exhalation. Bring your head back to the center. Focus your attention at the mind's eye, the point between your eyes. Now in your mind's eye, bring forth at this moment the most beautiful form of life to you at this moment in time. Bring form this forth of beauty. See this form of beauty in your mind's eye. See the shape of the form of beauty. See the color of the form of beauty. Smell the form of beauty. Now with the next inhalation of the breath, breathe that form of beauty. Breathe into the form of beauty, vivifying it with your breath. Now see that form of beauty begin to dissolve down your spinal column as golden light. Feel the beauty as golden light flowing down your spinal column, radiating into the trunk of your body, radiating into the limbs of your body, radiating into every cell of your being. Filling your body, your mind, every cell of your being with Ananda, Ananda, Ananda. And then when you're ready, holding on to that feeling state, bring your awareness back to the room that you are in at this moment. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So see, it's pretty easy to attain a harmonious mind. But if you're going to attain this state of Rashi, you must be able to sustain the harmonious mind. And in life, this is one of the most difficult things. It's not so hard to attain something, but it's very difficult to sustain. In part, it's difficult because we fail oftentimes to understand the laws of time gates, and we fail to understand the great formula, the great mystical formula that was left to us in this tradition by Sri Shaliji, who is the guru of Swami Pranananda. This formula, this mathematical formula, is intensity times duration equals force. I times D equals F. Now, remember that. I times D equals F. That means that if I focus my mind, complete pure concentration for 1 nanosecond, then that has a force of 1. If I'm able to focus my mind with, maybe 50% focus, a little thoughts flowing into the mind, and I do it for 4 minutes perhaps, that has a different force to it. It's not the length of time, is what the formula is saying. It is the intensity, the balance with which we do something, the focus with which we do something that is going to help. But it is also the formula of repetition. So intensity times duration equals force tells you that if you spend an hour, all right, let me think of it. Well, I probably shouldn't mention this. There are many, but there is a television show that our youngest niece told us about last night. And once again, for the 15th time, she reassured me as she was describing the details that this is not something I would like to watch. I don't know why. I love her very much, but I don't know why she feels compelled to tell me all the details and then say, you really won't like this. And yes, and my husband says, before she starts now, if this is violent. Oh yes, it's really violent. And Mary, you're really not going to like it. And it's like, oh, honey, don't tell me. So I don't have an hour's worth of watching the television show. I have 15 minutes of description of the show to wash out of my mind. You may have an hour of a show to wash out of your mind. But I just realized as I was sitting here telling you this, I thought, oh boy, I didn't get it out of my mind. My practice today, this is still in my mind. So I have to go back, because I listened to her, I have to go back, and because of the love that I have for her, the attachment that I have to her, the wanting to make her feel comfortable in our home and to make her feel welcome, I listened very carefully. And as I'm sitting here, my mind is saying, well, you really have to go back, and it's not gone. And 12 to 15 minutes is a pretty long duration. You have to really do something to wash that out. And so the key, we say, is not necessarily doing this for long periods of time, but doing it repeatedly. So going back again and again and again. And just like you don't do your Hatha yoga practice one day a week, you have to stretch many times a day to be able to stay flexible. Now, when we have this attaining, the concept of sustaining is the concept that means that you must have something or some things that you do throughout the course of your wakening hours and your sleeping hours. You must have practices that give you the skill to return again and again to this harmonious mind. So what we just did, one of the things we just did was focusing on beauty. Now, in Kriya Yoga, there is what is called an equilateral triangle that we use to help us to sustain this state of harmony. The first part on the right-hand side is beauty. The second part on the left-hand side is unselfish love. And at the top of the triangle is the neti practice. Now, some of you I see as a head come up, and neti. About 25 years into my discipleship, Kriyananda was teaching, and he called the disciples together and he said, neti is the tool that all seekers need upon the path. Now, I had never heard him say in all the years that it was the number one. I mean, he never used the. He always used a or one of the. He followed that by saying it must be used daily, continually, daily. Never heard him say that about the practice. And prior to that, I had always thought, well, neti, we teach it at the, beginning of meditation. It's a nice practice to have. Not realizing that that practice is the key to demagnetizing the attachment of the thoughts in your mind. And so here's the practice. If you're sitting in meditation, the practice is to visualize in your mind's eye like it's a movie camera. And you watch the thoughts that rise in your mind. And every time a thought rises, just as if you're watching a movie, you silently say, neti. Now, the Sanskrit word phrase means, in English, you never say it in English, but this is what it means. I'm not this thought. I am not the thought thinking this thought. I am not thought. It's at the top of the triangle. Now, you begin by practicing, and we'll do it in just a moment. You begin by practicing the neti in seated practice. But then you take it from your seated practice so that it becomes a part of your everyday. It becomes a part of your day. Every time a thought rises in your mind that's an agitated thought, that's an irritated thought, that's an angry thought, that's an uncomfortable thought, that's a judgmental thought, you say neti. Now, if the thought does not loosen, you say it again, neti. I've had people tell me they walk around their house stomping with their feet, neti. I'm not so sure about that one, but they say it works sometimes. So you got to do what you got to do. The key is that This is a practice to give you the skill to see the thoughts that are rising in your mind, and to give you the skill to do something magical. And that something magical is to transform your state of consciousness from where it is now into something that's more beautiful and more harmonious. So everything that you're working towards, everything that you're looking to do, is to be able to transform your consciousness from being upset or emotional or irritated or angry into happy, joyful, harmonious, filled with unselfish love. And it doesn't mean doing it once a day. It doesn't mean doing it for the 48 minutes that you're here on Sunday. It means that it must be continual throughout your day. So let's just try the practice as a beginning as you would sit. Now, you can do both of the practices that you've done, the object of beauty practice a few minutes ago. You can do that on the train. You can do it when you're waiting for something. You don't have to be sitting in meditation to do it. This neti, neti, neti practice, while we will do it now in meditation, you can do it at any time and in any place. So if you will, just shut your eyes. And again, using the resurrection breath, this is very helpful. It moves your consciousness from where it is now, releases the old thought patterns. So exhale to the left, double exhalation, and bring the head back to the center. Begin to watch your breath. Now focusing your attention at the point between your eyes. See this as a movie screen. And as you become aware of the thought rising in your mind, silently say, neti, neti, neti. Let us begin. Namaste. You may stop the practice now. Now, when you're saying neti, 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 somebody asked me a few days ago, does that include the thoughts between the thoughts? And the answer is yes. You will find that as you're watching the thoughts rise in your mind, there will be what you might call loud thoughts, and then there will be subtle thoughts that will flow in between. It is anything that rises in your mind, anything that you are aware of, neti, neti, neti. See, ultimately, as you're expanding your horizon of awareness, what you want to become aware of, and you will through this practice, is you want to become aware of the thought that's rising in the mind before it arises. Or as we say, if you're doing the practice when you first wake up in the morning, the pre-thought, the thought that rises in the mind and dissipates before you have the ability to discern it. It's that awareness that you're trying to attain conscious awareness of. It's those thoughts you're trying to attain conscious of awareness of. The subconscious thoughts and the unconscious thoughts, allowing them to arise to the mind. And again, saying neti, neti, neti. And the third triangle of this triangle is unselfish love. And this necessitates incorporating into your life a Kriya, an action that you do on a daily basis through the day that is a way of giving to others, a way of giving to life without any expectation of any reward for yourself, without getting any approval from anybody, without expecting any approval from anyone, without asking for or wanting anything from this action. Now, there are a lot of ways that you can do this, but one in particular that I'm going to give you today, share with you today, loving kindness practice. Now, there are many ways of saying this. There's Sanskrit mantra for it. But the practice is really simple. And that is whenever you see somebody, so somebody is in your line of vision, you mentally say, may you be mentally happy. May you be physically happy. May you be safe. May you have ease of well-being. So you put it in your own words. But any time someone comes into your eyesight, or as we say mystically, they come into your aura, you mentally say, may you be mentally happy. May you be physically happy. May you be safe. May you have ease of well-being. Now, my beloved, here's the thing. That includes everybody. Everybody. It doesn't mean the person has to be physically in front of you. You're reading something and you see the name of a person. And you may not like what they're saying. You may not like what they've done. You may not like how they're behaving. It may not be acceptable to you. Your mind may become angry when you think of the person. But you need, I need, we must free ourselves from the emotionality of the mind. And we do that by being able to say this regardless of who we are saying it about or who we are offering it to. You can't exclude anyone. May you be mentally happy. May you be physically happy. May you be safe. May you have ease of well-being. My guru used to say, never in public, always in discipleship, you must be able to visualize Adolf Hitler in your mind and say this. There were some of us for whom that was difficult at times in the beginning. And I remember a fellow disciple whom I love and respect very deeply just, raised her hand and said, I'm sorry. You've asked me to do a lot of things, but I will not do that. And he pressed her and he said, if you can't do that, you're cutting off a part of yourself. If you can't do that, you're cutting off a part of yourself. Now, you may say, well, this is a historical figure, person who's been, off the earth, off this incarnation for a long time. It's not emotionally laden to me. I don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me. And I use that name intentionally because for some of you, that person is a historical figure without any emotional tonus. But I'm sure that in your life at this moment, there are one or two people whom you feel very emotional about. Whether it's somebody at your work that you don't like, somebody in your personal life that you don't care for, somebody in your public life that you don't care for. It doesn't matter who it is. You need to free yourself from the emotions of your mind. And this is one of the ways that you free yourself. By carrying this practice throughout every day, so that you just simply make it before you speak to the person. It's just very quick, you know. You think the thought of loving kindness. And what you are doing when you do this is that you are completely changing that which you radiate from yourself. See, people don't react to us based upon what we say, the words that we say. They react to what we're radiating. They react to what you're saying at one level, but it's your tone. It's what they hear radiating from you. And so if you are with resolve, working, with effort, to bring calmness and peace and equanimity to your mind, that will be felt. That is what you will radiate. Some of you are here visiting today, and you're becoming teachers. In fact, I look out here today and I see many of you who are already teachers and who have already been teaching, whether it's hatha yoga or meditation to children, or your mothers and you're teaching your children. As you radiate peace, as you radiate joy, as you radiate love, as you realize that this is what your life is about, all of that changes. You're changing your own state of consciousness, changes everything. It changes the entire environment for all of those who enter your aura, who are in your aura. For all of us, for you, for me, for all of us, it's all changed. Now, I've said to you, all right, you've got to have this Rashmi. It's the ray of sunshine. It's the rope. The other nice word is sutra, the thread that carries through. So the thread that carries through your day. It means that you have to have Kriya carrying through your day. And so I've suggested to you, I've given you a object of beauty meditation, the neti 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 technique to use regularly. Loving kindness meditation. In order to change, and this is the last key point that I need to make today, we need to resolve to stop the inflow of negative thoughts and vibrations into our lives. By looking at your life and deciding, what are you doing? Who are you spending time with? What are those people like? What are you reading? What are you listening to? To stop the flow of negative vibrations or negative thoughts into your life, you need to find a way to replace them with positive thoughts, with positive vibrations. And so the loving kindness practice is one, the neti practice is another. I'll tell you, you do that loving kindness practice and you walk through your day, and if you're doing it, when you're driving down the expressway and somebody's driving next to you and in front of you and in back of you, your mind becomes so full with doing that it really doesn't have time There's no place left there for the negative thinking or the being irritated because somebody cut you off. You know, you drove in from Naperville. I drove in from Glen Ellen, so you have plenty of opportunity to do loving kindness practice. Lots and lots of opportunity. But meditation, all of these practices are leading to the practice of meditation. Meditation is effortless concentration. Effortless concentration begins, we develop the skill by beginning with concentration. And then for just 1 nanosecond to be able to attain that state of meditation effortlessly. But it isn't done for hours at a time. It's done repeatedly, again and again and again and again and again. And so let us close this afternoon with a brief meditation. Now, our Rashmi ends with the word infinitely. Resolve, attain, sustain. Harmonious mind, infinitely. That's a nice little sutra. Resolve, attain, sustain. Harmonious mind, infinitely. It's a lot of practice. It's a lot of coming back again and again and again and again to find that place of bliss and harmony and ananda. And so I will lead you in one more practice this afternoon. The whole purpose of these practices is to gain the skills that we need. And this is very simple. This is the chanting of the sacred word, Om. Om is the sound of all, the totality of all existence. Om is the sound associated with Ishvara, the spiritual preceptor of the saints and sages, the gurus of old and of today. Om is the sound of your Ishtadevata, your chosen form of Ishvara, the being without karma, the being without and the being that is omniscient, omnipotent. Now I think you know the syllable, Om, most of you. It's drawn like this, right? First like the 3, that's the A, and then the Sanskrit in the middle there comes and it's U, it goes around a little circle there, and then it's the M, the first M is the crescent up here, and then the second M is the dot in the middle, and that is the extension of the Om. So it's the A, and then the U here, and then the M, and then the M, all right? So hold that image in your mind's eye. Well, it's not here, so felt like it was right there, but I guess it's not. It's here. It's here, okay? I was sure you could see it because I can see it. All right. So this is very simple, and we're going to close with this and then sit in the after effect of the mantra. Now there should be no stress or strain in your voice, no effort. Sit with your spine erect and place your hands turned upward in a cup form on your thighs And use the Om Mudra, bringing the index finger to the thumb, creating a circle. Again, turning the head to the left, exhaling twice. And we'll begin by chanting it 3 times. Now in your mind's eye, visualize that Om symbol. Visualize it as a golden light. Focus your attention on the Om symbol. And more gently chant the Om, seeing the symbol vivified and radiate. As you chant again 3 times. And now as we chant this Om, radiate this to all of those in need. Let us begin. O Great Spirit, saints and sages of all times, of all places, most beloved Ishwara, sweep clear our paths that we might find our way to Rashmi, that we might have the resolve that we need to attain and sustain harmonious mind infinitely. Om Tat Sat Om. Aham Brahmasmi. Be thou blessed. Be thou blessed. Be thou triply blessed at this moment. Become an ever greater blessing unto all of those whom you meet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste. Shanti. Thank you for joining us today.
la la.